Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good to be here with you. I'm super excited. You're my first interview in a series of giving a lot of information to my students and to anyone that can benefit from this. And we are trying to focus on pregnancy and postpartum and all the most amazing, most important topics that are out there, and that I feel, and I know you feel, that women and men, and maybe not women or men, can benefit from, right? Today is like anyone can benefit from. So, first of all, I would love for you to introduce yourself, Emily. And I know you were my student, and I know you personally, and I know you're a beautiful baby. So you are a therapist in Florida.
Yep,
Correct?
I am.
And you specialize in?
I specialize in two areas. So my specialty has been the longest in couples therapy, and I'm now specializing in maternal mental health, completing a lot of trainings and working with a lot of new moms and not so new moms as well, because everyone can experience maternal mental health differently at different stages. So those are my two main specialties, my two main areas. And yeah,
Right.
I work here in South Florida.
So you said something that made me think. See, I love that. You said not so new moms. So when we're talking about perinatal depression and anxiety, because that's what we were going to talk about, how long after when you say not so new moms?
So by not so new moms, it could be either moms that are becoming moms for the first time and are experiencing symptoms later on, like after the first year, ending the first year of postpartum, and also moms that have had their third child, their fourth child, and are experiencing symptoms as well. It doesn't mean that if you have your son or your girl for the first time, you're going to experience depression that one time. It could happen at any point in your life.
Okay, good. So, all right. So our topic today is going to be perinatal depression, and maybe we'll touch a little bit on anxiety. So what does it mean? When does it start? Does it start after having a baby, or does it start before having a baby, or could it be either or?
Yeah, great question. So for perinatal maternal health, it's important to draw some kind of a timeline because perinatal mental health could begin as soon as you find out you're pregnant, your early stages of pregnancy, throughout birth, the day you give birth, you can start experiencing symptoms, and all the way to the first year postpartum, you can experience different symptoms. Okay, now there are different things that happen as well. There's the baby blues, and there is postpartum depression, and they can be very similar in the way they present, but the timing and the severity of the symptoms differ significantly.
All right, so let's start with the baby blues.
So
how common and what are some of the symptoms that we can experience?
Okay, so for the baby blues, first of all, it's extremely common. Around 70 to 80% of women will experience the baby blues. And there are really about, feelings of sadness, crying, worries, moodiness, feeling cranky. That happens in the first few weeks after you give birth. So the first 1 to 3 weeks, that's the timeline where it could happen, where it could present. Maybe you're feeling that you're not a good enough mom, or you are feeling that this is very difficult you can handle, so feelings of overwhelmed, which pretty understandable. I mean, your life changes drastically when you give birth. So they happen a lot. They're very common, and most people will experience it. I think it's a very high percentage. Now with postpartum depression, it's a bit different. It presents very similarly at first. You get periods of sadness, frequent crying, the fears and the guilt, but you also get them for longer periods of times. And they don't only happen at the beginning, as soon as you give birth, which the baby blues do. You could not even feel them the first 3 weeks of giving birth, but they could come 2 months later, 6 months later, 9 months later, even at your baby's first year, you could start experiencing those symptoms, and they're way more severe. So you will feel a lot of, exhaustion, more than you should with a newborn, and lack of, pleasure in the activities that you enjoy, even, lack of pleasure in this new life. You don't feel excited about your baby. You don't feel that you love your baby. So these are more severe experiences that people will have. That's the main difference between the two.
So anytime from becoming pregnant till about a year after having a baby, you could experience any of these symptoms?
You could, yes, you could experience any of these symptoms. For the baby blues, as I said, it's right after you give birth.
Immediate.
Right, and it's first 3 weeks. It doesn't last more than 3 weeks. If it lasts more than 3 weeks, then you have to look into postpartum depression. Now, with postpartum depression, the percentage of, it happening is not as high as the baby blues, but it's still, 1 in every 8 women will experience this. And it could vary because it really goes underreported in a lot of places too.
Right. So 10 to 15% of moms will experience clinical depression.
Clinical depression, yes.
Okay. What about anxiety, if you don't mind touching on that a little bit? Also same timeline, beginning of pregnancy till a year after?
Yes, you could definitely experience anxiety in the perinatal period. So when you get pregnant, throughout the first year of postpartum, you could see signs of anxiety. And this one is particularly interesting because this is something that, so postpartum depression is something people don't talk about a lot, right? It's something that is not very normalized, which is very dangerous too, to not normalize it. Anxiety is even worse. So postpartum anxiety is something that people talk even less in general. So this comes with the worries and the fears and the obsessions. Is the baby breathing? And you check them 50 times at night. I don't know one mom that hasn't checked the baby breathing at night to see if they're still breathing. But this comes into a more severe way. So they would check every 20 minutes, the whole night. They won't sleep. They experience insomnia. They experience physical symptoms like nausea, like panic attacks, difficulty breathing. And this is also common, not as common as postpartum depression. I think this one is 1 in 12 women that will experience this, but it's under talked too. It's not very common that people will report this or would even acknowledge this as something that they go with. So they keep quiet about it.
So as you're talking, my mind is like going, and I'm thinking to myself that, okay, so you say, and I know I'm a mom to 3, and yeah, I had some moods, and I was probably crying after every baby. I definitely wasn't feeling a deep connection, especially with my first, like not immediate, and it definitely worked itself out within a few weeks. I don't remember exactly how long, but okay, so how do you know, right? How do you know, let's say it's been 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, and you're feeling off, like you're not exactly sure. How do you know when it's a good time to look for help? Like when is it severe enough or not severe enough? Should you look for a therapist, like a psychologist? Should you look for a therapist or a psychiatrist? Like where do you go first? How do you know?
Yeah, and that can be really tricky for a lot of, especially new moms having the first baby, because it's a very new phase of your life. So you don't know if this is part of it, if you're supposed to feel tired and you're supposed to feel annoyed at everything, and you start to normalize that you're experiencing this and you won't say anything because you're really a mom, right? That's the big taboo that exists, and if women suffering because they suffer by staying silent. So what is important to recognize is the way you said it, I'm feeling off. When you recognize that you're feeling off and that you're not feeling yourself, there's nothing wrong with asking for help, reaching out and, just let's check what's going on. talk to someone, talk to a therapist, and bring up your concerns and your feelings and how different you feel from who you know you are in reality, right? And that's one thing. And then also see how it impacts your daily functioning, right? Are you having trouble in your daily things, right? Things that you normally would do with no difficulty. Are you not showering every day, not because you don't have time, just because you don't want to, or you don't feel like you need to? Are you not talking to your partner because you don't feel like you want to talk, right? Because you're feeling too depressed to even open up conversations about it? Are you not holding your baby because you don't feel like holding your baby? Right? Look at all of these things that are impacting your functioning, your everyday, your day to day. And those things can tell you if it's time to get help or not. That would be one of the main things.
Right. What if you don't get help? Like how many women are reported or unreported? I don't know if you have that kind of info, but I'm wondering how many women are like in denial or are too ashamed or just don't want to get help because they feel like there's something like they're not worthy of help, or not worthy, but like I'm too spoiled. Like, what am I, why would I go and I pay somebody or this is very, like, how many women do you think are actually ignoring the fact that they are indeed depressed, and then how do they get help, or does it get more severe? Or I'm super interested because I know there's so many women, we've had circles before where women were feeling down and sad and overwhelmed, like you say, because this is a very different life. I bet you now people are even more depressed because of COVID, because they can't socialize, because they can't be with families or friends or travel or whatever. Nothing is normal. Okay, so how many people actually look for help without the shame and feelings, I don't know even how to explain it. Like they have to justify really actually getting help. Like,
yeah, and that's a really good question. I think they've done a lot of studies to kind of find what the statistics are, and they don't have a specific number for that same reason, because people want to see it, right? But the estimates, I think I've read in several articles, that when they say, the CDC says 1 in every 8 women will experience postpartum depression. That's the estimate according to what's been reported. They really think it's more so like 5 or 4 in 8. So 50 to 60% of women experiencing that are not, so about 40% that are not reporting. That's a really high number, really high number. And I think you can notice that maybe in your circles with a lot of women, that you can start seeing them feel that they're not alone. Because that's one thing, people stay quiet because they think it's just them and something's wrong with them and they can't figure it out with somebody else because nobody would get it. It's until you talk to other people that you realize you're not alone in the game. I mean, there's a lot more people doing the same.
So do you think that would be like the first step, even before seeking professional help? Maybe asking some friends, maybe finding some circles, maybe if you realize that you're not alone, maybe the shame of admitting that you're depressed, right? Or that there's actually something wrong with you, maybe that is kind of lifted, makes it a little easier. Maybe if people talk about it a little bit more, that would be more helpful.
Yeah, so support groups are huge in the treatment of postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety in general. I mean, I think it's a perfect treatment for motherhood in general without having any label attached to it, because it's really hard. It's really hard on a woman's body, emotional well-being, relationship life, everything changes. So having that support circle in which you can feel that you're not alone, that you can openly talk about these struggles because other people face them every day too, takes away the shame and takes away the fear of being different, weird, and not normal in your life.
Yeah. And do you think that some people are more inclined to experience depression or anxiety than other people? Can people pre-test, or is there any kind of screening to do during pregnancy, before pregnancy? Is there any way to know?
So to know that you could get it, is that what you say?
Yeah, is there any way to know if I'm more prone
Mm-hmm.
to it,
Okay.
or?
Yeah, so there's a lot of risk factors. So first of all, anyone could get it. Anyone. It
Right.
doesn't discriminate race or socioeconomic status. It doesn't discriminate anything. Anyone could get postpartum depression or the baby blues or postpartum anxiety. However, there are risk factors as well that put you a more risk of developing postpartum depression per se. So if you had baby blues, you're more at risk. Not very likely.
Okay.
You're more at risk of developing postpartum depression or postpartum anxiety. That's one thing. It doesn't mean
Okay.
you will get it, but you're more at risk than people who
Right.
haven't had the baby blues, right?
Okay.
However, this would put around 70 to 80% women at possible risk. Now,
Right.
there's a lot more things that could add to it. If you're a person who have struggled with clinical depression for a long time, for a year, for 8 years, then you are more at risk of developing postpartum depression, right? If you've had experienced with anxiety throughout your life or for the recent years before you got pregnant, you are at higher risk of developing postpartum anxiety or even postpartum depression too, because it's a mood disorder.
Okay.
Now, if you've had bipolar disorder, for example, throughout your life, you are at higher risk of developing postpartum depression as well.
Okay.
And it also comes to, daily habits that you have. How healthy are you eating? How much exercise are you doing? How much water are you drinking? All these things make a difference too, because they really change your immune system, your stress levels, your energy, and they could really make a difference as well. So that could also be as a preventative way to.
So eating healthy and working out, surrounding yourself with supportive people, just generally being. So would you say that single moms have higher risk, or people who don't have the support system around them have a higher risk of developing depression or anxiety?
So not having support system gives you a higher risk for a lot of different mental disorders in general, because support system is really important, really key. And it doesn't mean that you have to be married or have to be living with people in your house, but having people that you could reach out to, with good news, with bad news. If you ask your question that, who do I go to when I have bad news or when I have good news? The first people that come to mind that would, that would say who your support system is. If you have a hard time identifying those people, then try to think what you can do about it, right? Maybe, joining a circle, joining a class, joining a support group. There's a lot of support groups going on online right now that kind of give you that company in the process of whatever you're going through. It could be that you feel lonely during COVID because you can't see anyone. There are a lot of options right now. So that could definitely be an important factor of, developing postpartum mental health issues.
Okay. And then I guess one of my other questions, and maybe even the last question, unless you have something else to add, is like, okay, so solutions, ways to go around it. Do you ever heal from it? What?
Yeah, so definitely, yes, you can heal from it, but it's really important to ask for help. So that's one thing that we all need to work out, as a community, is to start normalizing that getting help in mental health is really important and really okay to do, right? Just like you go to the doctor when your head hurts for 4 days straight and nothing can calm it down, right? Same thing you should do with your mental health. If you're struggling for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, and you see that nothing can help you calm down, you've tried meditation, you've tried melatonin to sleep better, and nothing's helping you, then reach out and ask for help. That's what we're here for. That's what we went to school and prepared, to help you guys, to help everyone out there. But you need to reach out. You need to be the first one to, take a step forward and do something about it. Now, some things that are also important, like, how moms, a lot of times they like to get information about how is it like to give birth, what are my options, what plan could I have, what is it like to breastfeed, and you get information, right? You learn, you educate yourself, you go to classes.
Right.
Same thing could go for this, for mental health, right? What are the risks that I have in terms of mental health when I get pregnant, when I give birth, when I'm in that first year of motherhood? What are the things I have to look for? What are the red flags? What are the resources that I have available? Educate yourself with that, whether you're at risk or no, whether you think you've experienced symptoms or no. Educate yourself with your partner as well, because they can help you identify things that you might not be able to see. Right? A lot of times we are very tired with our babies and we say, no, I'm feeling this way because I'm exhausted, I haven't slept in 3 days, and we start normalizing it, right? No, I don't need help, I'm just tired, right? I haven't eaten a proper meal, which is very normal in the first months of motherhood. Now your partner can see from a different window, and he or she can say, you haven't eaten in 3 days. What are you talking about? It's not like you're tired because you have a baby. You haven't really eaten anything in 3 days, or you are talking to me in a different way. I'm concerned. So bring up those concerns for the moms can also make a difference. So that would be one really important advice that I could give. Really educate yourself, not only yourself, but your partners too, your support system as well, because they could help you, recognize the signs or the red flags.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And so that's one way of kind of like preparing for it, right? Is there anything else? Like you mentioned diet,
yes,
water, exercise, I guess good sleep, as much as possible during pregnancy, and after having a baby, it's a little harder, but doing your best. How about like maybe getting even help around the house, getting family and friends to deliver and help with meals or with other things? I always tell moms like they need to rest. I don't think they realize how much rest they actually need after having a baby. We play it down like having a baby, it's not a big deal. But it's a big deal.
It is a very big deal. We say get enough sleep, and that's hard when you have a newborn waking up every 3 hours, right? But getting sleep and getting good rest could be different. You could rest without having to necessarily sleep, but you need to rest, and you need to, take care of yourself too. So self-care is another component there. Self-care is extremely important in our daily life, and more so when we're going through difficult transitions in life. So self-care doesn't mean go get a 6-hour massage. I mean, that sounds amazing, but it's not realistic. But you need to, at least get 30 minutes out of your day to give it to yourself 100%. So take a long shower, or, go paint your nails, do something that you really enjoy for only yourself. It's not like you're going to have, your baby in the boob and then you're looking at some pictures because you enjoy looking at pictures. That doesn't count. You need to find a way to have that time for yourself exclusively. And this makes a difference, not only in the way your mood goes, but it really makes a difference in your physiology. It reduces stress levels. It reduces, the anxiety that you might be experiencing without noticing. It helps you rest. It makes a lot of changes in your body itself. Now, exercise, also something very important to highlight here, is that it doesn't mean work out really hard to burn calories. That is not the goal in this case. The goal is to keep moving, and give your body that movement that it needs to properly heal from, if it's postpartum, if it's pregnancy, and to properly function for you and be there for you, because you need to count on your body as well. Plus it gives you a lot of energy that you need too. So the benefits are endless in this case of habits, forming important habits.
I love it. Awesome. I love it. It's good information, and I think that it's really important for everybody to know. Do you have anything else that you can add that you feel like maybe I didn't ask? Because I'm thinking about my postpartum classes. I think about, I love it. I mean, you've been there. I love when mommies share. I think that it just is healing. It's still healing for me. I don't have babies, and it's still healing for me to listen to feel the connection. So I know that is helpful. We also move our bodies, but I definitely hear moms share a bunch. So sharing with friends and family, and possibly sharing with a therapist, and
So
taking care of the body.
Yeah, you mentioned the classes, and I think that was a key component, at least in my experience. I think motherhood can be very lonely, and I've heard that from a lot of women. The experience could feel very lonely, and that's something that a lot of us don't think that it could be that way, because you're bringing up a new human being. I mean, this is a bundle of joy. It's supposed to be really, really wonderful since day one. And the reality is that it's not always like that, and it could be very lonely sometimes when you are, constantly taking care of a human being day and night, and you're not doing anything for yourself or getting any help for yourself as much as you get it offered, because that's another topic of conversation, right? We like to say no to a lot of the help that gets offered, and that adds a lot of pressure on us. So for me, those classes where I was able to connect, to spend an hour or two outside of my four walls in the house, where I would breastfeed, burp, sleep, and bath, all the routine every single day, that made a really big difference. Not only in getting me out doing something differently, but practicing something that it's important for myself, and connecting with other people doing the same thing as I am. So I think that really makes a big difference too. Connecting, building your social circle.
Yeah, connection. I remember feeling very lonely after having a baby, and all I wanted to do was find other moms. That's really what I was doing. I was very lonely. I knew I was in a different country. I was like, I need to make mommy friends. And that saved me, because play dates and socializing, that's why I feel really bad now for moms that they can't, but I know eventually we'll be able to, so this is temporary, but that really helped me. So I have to say, and I did not have depression, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
But I definitely, as a mom, I think a mom is the hardest job ever. So knowing that I was normal, knowing that whatever I was experiencing, other people were experiencing as well, definitely helped me, which is why I love this, that connection, that giving of information, just making sure that we all know that we are normal, and there's a very wide range of normal, but we are normal. And when I tell you, everybody is experiencing what you're experiencing at some point, so you're never really alone.
Yeah, exactly. You realize it's part of the human experience. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
So I think that really helps, and I also found something important and helpful from those groups too. You find resources as well.
Yeah.
So I remember, we were having talks about, kids that were breastfeeding, those that were having formula, and this one talked to the doctor and they recommended this formula, and you start learning, a lot of resources from those groups too, which otherwise you wouldn't have, because you would go Dr. Google and they'll tell you the worst, and
I know
it only adds up to that stress.
Good. And this is why we're doing this too. This is a resource. So you're a resource for people in Florida, right? Because you're licensed in the state of Florida.
Yeah, so I can work with people in Florida, all over Florida, because I'm doing telehealth only.
Okay. Beautiful. So we'll share your information, and then we'll hopefully either people can ask me, maybe people can come to you. Do you know people in other states that they can reach? Because who knows? Now with the internet, people are all over the place.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we can help moms find help. And it'll be wonderful if more and more and more people will open up some groups, and moms have resources always. So that's my goal, ultimately, for moms to have tons of resources. And I want to thank you for joining me.
No, thanks for inviting me. It's an honor.
This was really, but I actually learned more, and I, learned more about, some signs, things that we can look for, and maybe things that I can mention moms, I think it's helpful, and I think we all need it. So send my love to your baby boy that's not so baby anymore. And I know. Well, next. So yeah, and I hope to get together soon and share even more information, and we will share all of our information
Absolutely.
on the bottom of the screen here. So thank you so much, Emily.
One more thing that I would like
yeah.
to say, it's don't hesitate to reach out. Like whoever's listening to this and you have some questions and you like more information, please know that most therapists, including me, offer 15 minutes free consultation on the phone. So you can always reach out. We can always clarify questions, get you more answers, more resources. The only thing you need to do is, drop some message or give us a call. That's all you need to do to open up that, that door.
Beautiful. And we'll share email if people don't feel comfortable calling. We can share an email. And,
Sure. That's no problem. Awesome. We can share the email, the Instagram account, and the phone number too.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Ifat.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye. Bye.